Hello everybody, it's me GhostCritic with Monday's question of the week. And this week it's actually been inspired by a question I was asked last week to respond to this week, and I thought I'd follow this kind of theme through to next week as well. Or will become apparent as I explain. One of my subscribers left me a question that was like, do you prefer this person or this person? It was an either or type question, and I thought it would be quite fun to pose the biggest either or question you can possibly ask a comic book reader. And then at the end of the video, when you put your comments in the section below, I'm going to throw that opportunity out to you guys to ask me an either or question. All become apparent as we go along. So my question to you this week is, are you a DC or are you a Marvel? I have a gun pointing at your head. You have to answer. And the one you choose, the other side completely gets eradicated from all history. All the works that have ever happened in that publishing house disappears like that. I'm not making this going to be easy on you. It is not to be just like currently, it is of all time. Where do you land? On the DC side or the Marvel side? So this week, questions that you posed to me for last week, thank you very much for taking part. And I'm going to start with a person who did all this, who started this kind of theme going, and that was Derek Lucarelli, who asked me, better artist, Jim Lee or Greg Capullo? And then he asked me, best writer, Scott Snyder or Paul Dini? So we'll start with the artist one first, and I'm just going to go straight out and say I think Greg Capullo's the better artist. The reason for this is, as good an artist as Jim Lee is, I don't think his style has changed in a long time. When you look at it, you immediately say, well, that's Jim Lee. And even I recognise that. And, you know, sometimes I have a tough time going, well, who actually, you know, just off the top of my head, looking at a piece of artwork, can I tell who the artist is? You always know when it's Jim Lee. And I don't think his style has changed very much over the last maybe 5, 6, 7 years. With Greg Capullo, I think it has changed for the better. He's grown as an artist. His artwork has become more finely tuned, and I just have a much richer time looking at his artwork, which obviously is coupled with whoever he's using as a colorist or an inker. But of the two, I would much prefer to look at a Greg Capullo piece of artwork. Now, the best writer, Scott Snyder or Paul Dini? Because you kind of, Paul Dini has done a lot of things before he started writing comics, not least of all penning stories for Batman the Animated Series, and he introduced quite some new characters to that series that have now become huge comic book characters in their own right. I loved his work on the last volume of Zatanna just before the New 52 kicked in. Loved that. But I was looking down like wiki pages and comic book database pages for the work that they've done. And of the two, I'm gonna have to say Scott Snyder. Obviously his work on Batman and his events and how he's fitting them all together is just amazing. But you know, coupled with that, he's done a lot of indie work. You've got Severed, you've got American Vampire, you've got The Wake. He's done, I mean, Paul Dini's done a great deal as well. But for the majority that I've read of each of their work, I'm going to have to side with Scott Snyder. Okay, moving on. Mr. Gretzky 9966 asked me, what is your favourite Dan Jurgens book he has worked on and why? Now, when you guys ask me these kind of questions, and feel free still to do, you have to make the assumption that, you know, I've actually read a lot of their work or own a lot of their work. And I had to go again on Wikipedia and comic book databases to find out, you know, all the stuff that they've done. And I was looking down lists of stuff that Dan Jurgens done, and I was like, I haven't actually read a lot of this. He's done a lot of Superman. He's done a lot of kind of like 90s Teen Titans, which I haven't read. And there were two titles there that immediately stood out. And I usually at this point like to kind of put something up as an example to go this and this. And I saw that he'd apparently worked on 52, that weekly DC run. And he'd worked on Flashpoint. Now, both comics that I enjoyed in their own right, but when I brought the comics out, I could see no mention of his name anywhere. 52, because there is a multitude of creators on those books all the way through, so I don't know whether it all got mixed in there and I've missed it. But Flashpoint, I expected his name to be there because the sites I were looking at said they were kind of like, he was co-writer, so to speak, with Jeff Johns, but he isn't credited in any of the issues that he's apparently worked on. So I was kind of stumped. If he has actually worked on either of those two, surprisingly, I'm going to say I enjoyed Flashpoint more. Whether you agree or disagree with how it all ended and what happened obviously with the New 52, as a story on its own, I really enjoyed it. Obviously we didn't know what was coming as we were making our way through those months of Flashpoint until very near the end. So it was an exciting storyline. You're wondering where this is going to go. Although, you know, 52 was great, but I'm going to have to say Flashpoint. Okay, Sleepy Reader 666 asked, how do you feel about covers that have nothing to do with the interior of the comic? Is it enough if it's just a great piece of artwork? No, it's not, and that kind of gives you my answer. It's so annoying when you see this comic book on the shelf and you look at it and you go, I'm going to buy that because that's going to be inside it. You know, the cover is meant to be there as a reflection of what you're going to read inside, and it's just such a rarity at the moment that this actually happens. No more so than current issues that have gone by of Batman Eternal. The whole teasers of the Spectre showing up, a character that I love, and just so excited to see him in Batman Eternal, but as yet, despite his appearances on the covers of Batman Eternal, has yet to show up, and it annoys me so much. Yes, they're really pretty and nice to look at, and I could possibly understand why they do this if these covers came out as like posters that you could buy and you could adorn your walls for, but they don't, and it's just a false impression of what is actually going on inside. Oh, for the days going back to like this, you know, Silver and Bronze Age days where you would have these great covers that most certainly showed you not only in pictures but in your kind of the word blurbs what was going to be going on in that particular issue. So currently it's not awful, but it does annoy me and kind of get my back up. Finally, oh, what a question. Why not art? Thank you very much for asking this, but oh, who is your favourite superhero? Oh. Now, once upon a time, I probably would have said Spider-Man because, you know, I used to collect it. for years and years and years. I've got lots of the kind of the Marvel Essentials that I've just devoured every time I bought them. But obviously I'm not collecting any Spider-Man now, and the whole Superior Spider-Man kind of put me off a lot. So that's kind of slipped as my favourite. Again, another character, Daredevil, would have been there. Unfortunately, I'm not buying that now. Not because it's not a great comic, because I'm so hard, because I know people love it. It's still Mark Waid and Chris Samney, and I loved the last volume, but getting my head around having to pay an extra £1 for something that is exactly the same page count as the previous volume, which only took a hiatus of what, a couple of months, if that. It's just not on. You've got to put a stop to it somewhere. So I've had to kind of go, and probably it's Batman. I have a whole shelf of graphic novels. I've got a whole long box full of various Batman from all over, his kind of huge canon of work, and obviously I'm reading a lot of Bat titles in the current New 52. So I'm going to say Batman. Now, next week, I only want questions that are either or questions, just like Derek Lucarelli asked me, having to choose between two things. Preferably make them, you know, of a similar vein, so writers or artists or comic books, or you can go down the film route, the TV route, you can go down there if you want. But they can only be either or questions. You can ask up to 3 different questions, because I don't want next week's video to go on too long. If there is a lot, I'm just going to bang my way through them without much of an explanation, just to keep the video short. But I'd love to make this, you know, really fun and exciting, and it's just something different than you scratching your heads trying to think of a question for next week. So I've given you a theme to pick. And this might happen in later videos, just to shake things up a bit, make question of the week a little bit more interesting and not the same old every week. So with that done, answer my question right at the top. Are you a DC or are you a Marvel? And ask me an either or question too. I'm looking forward to this one. Take care, and I'll see you on Wednesday with my pull list for this week. Take care. Bye-bye.